Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be discussing how to adjust to and have success in Season 5 of Fortnite. Season 5 has been out for about a week now, and based on what I've heard, it seems like a lot of people are struggling pretty heavily compared to Season 4. And trust me, I can understand why. Season 5 has represented a really major change in the gameplay of Fortnite with brand new points of interest, new gameplay features, and probably most importantly, some changes in the meta stemming from the recent patches. So if you plan on playing Season 5 the same way you did Season 4, I can tell you right now that you're going to be in for a pretty unpleasant surprise. So the goal of this video today is going to be to share and discuss with you guys a few of the major changes between Season 4 and 5, as well as the things you must know to succeed in this new season of Fortnite. It should be a really interesting video, so without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so the first thing I want to discuss in this video today is how the general nature of certain fights have changed in Season 5. In the past, if you were a top Fortnite player, you would on a fairly consistent basis be able to win fights where you are heavily outnumbered, and I'm mainly talking about fights that are like 1v3s and 1v4s. And even some, average or just pretty good players could still do that every once in a while when they got a few lucky breaks. In Season 5, however, this is no longer the case, and that's mainly due to two major gameplay changes. First off, which I made a whole video discussing in my last video, the major explosives buff that happened about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That buff pretty much single-handedly killed the most reliable way to win fights where you're heavily outnumbered in Fortnite, and that's by building. It didn't matter if you were outnumbered 3-1 or even 4-1. If you could keep high ground for the duration of the fight and just constantly be putting down shots and getting picks, that fight would go from borderline unwinnable to easily winnable fairly quickly. But that is obviously no longer the case due to the explosive buff and the fact that you'll almost never be able to find a team of 3 or 4 without at least one source of explosives to destroy your building and take you back down to the ground. The second change that's made it incredibly hard to win unfair fights in Season 5 is the double shotgun switch delay, which has totally killed any possible double shotgun combination. With the insane burst damage that double shotgun provided, it made it super possible to win 1v3s and 1v4s by getting a very quick pick or two before the team could even reaction build. I mean, seriously, there were times I'd be able to take out 2 enemies that weren't looking at me in like 3 or 4 shotgun shots. And if you have a really quick switch on the double pump or double heavy, those 3 or 4 shots could be shot in literally 2 or 3 seconds to where those people would be knocked down before anyone else on the team could even react. But again, with double shotgun being dead because of that patch in 5.0, which killed any possible double shotgun combination, doesn't matter what you're thinking up, that is also no longer possible. So what does this mean? This does not only matter for 1v3s and 1v4s, it matters for pretty much every unfair fight in Season 5, and you're going to be running into those a lot more than you will ever realize. An unfair fight doesn't have to be a clear as day 1v3 or 1v4, it can be a 2v2 where one team has a mountain and you're fighting from low ground. It could be a fight where you have 2, they have 2, but they're simply 2 much better players than you, much better builders, much more accurate. Those would all be classified as unfair fights. The theme of Season 5 is that these unfair fights are a lot harder to win now from the team that is at the disadvantage in the fight. Being able to get a miracle double pump to kill a guy who's a better player than you or has high ground over you is no longer going to happen because that's simply not an option anymore. So this means that, in my opinion, Season 5, and this was a lesson I had to learn really early on, is the season of positioning and teamwork and IQ, and probably the least impact that building and gun skill in general has ever had on a Fortnite season. That's why positioning, like I mentioned, something that's just always been underrated in Fortnite, is now more important than ever. If you were a top player in the past, like I mentioned, you could just run into 1v3s and 1v4s and go, oh man, I got myself into a bad situation here, but hey, I'll just outbuild these guys, I'll double pump them before they even know what happened, and in 5 seconds I'm now in a 1v2 with high ground, and this is going to be an easy win. That's, like I said, simply no longer the case. Double pump, no longer possible. You try to outbuild a team of 4, they'll just shoot you back down to the ground. So now, it's all about being in good positions in fights. It's hard to walk away unscathed from gunfights because you're just going to get absolutely spammed down by multiple SMGs. But if you can make smart plays like flanking before engaging in a fight, or finding a side angle before you engage in a fight, or finding a position of natural high ground where no one's going to expect you to peek from in a fight, those are all things that are going to get you those oh so valuable early picks in fights where you're not going to take any damage. And I feel like the whole meta of Season 5 is just trading damage, close range with SMGs, just spraying and praying that the bloom favors you more than your enemy. Good things like positioning and IQ and teamwork, that is the way to avoid that negative of this season, and that is the way to be really successful in gunfights in Season 5. The next thing I want to discuss are the new points of interest in conjunction with things like rifts and ATKs, because those have totally changed the game of Fortnite in a big fashion, especially high kill games. So just in general, I want a quick discussion of the 3 most important new points of interest in my opinion: the pirate ship on the mountain right next to Greasy Grove, Lucky Links, and Paradise Palms. Now, in my opinion, those first 2 that I said are really irrelevant at this point. They got a lot of traffic because they're new points of interest, and that always happens at the beginning of pretty much every Fortnite season. But the loot there really isn't that good. You know, they're cool. You're going to want to go there at least once or twice just to learn them in case a game ends there, and you got to go there to prevent dying from the storm. But the loot to player ratio is just really bad at the moment. Maybe it'll cool down a little more as the season goes on, but right now I would avoid landing there whenever possible. Paradise Palms, on the other hand, I think is actually a really solid landing even now when it's still a little bit overpopulated. It's a really open area with a nice amount of loot, and it's on a bad part of the map away from a lot of other points of interest that are going to enable you to get high kill games. But what makes Paradise Palms a viable landing spot in Season 5 are, like I mentioned, rifts and ATKs. I'll put some maps on the screen right now with all the possible ATK and rift spawns, and you're going to notice a lot of them are around Paradise Palms and other areas on the outskirts of the map. Rifts are huge this season. They're basically like a max height launch pad that can enable you to get from one part of the map to another part of the map that's pretty far away in about 15 to 20 seconds depending on how close it is. That is super valuable for mid-game rotations and high kill games. I've actually gotten a good amount of high kill games by going Paradise, only getting like 4 or 5 kills off the rip, and you may think, oh, you're screwed now, you're in a really bad part of the map, but all it takes is for me to hit one of the rifts that spawn there, and I'm in Salty Springs, you know, one of the most populated areas of the map, the middle of the map, in literally 15 to 20 seconds, which is a great area to be in for the rest of the game and a great opportunity for you to get some high kill games. You know, rifts are awesome. Anytime you see them, I would recommend hitting them. It enables for some super fast travel, and maybe even more importantly, the ability to be that high up in the air. You can just float there for a few seconds until you find a team and then descend upon them. And as a normal player without using the rifts, you also have to be aware of them. As soon as you hear one, check the air, check if they're descending upon you. All important things that you will learn and pick up along the way in Season 5 of Fortnite. The final thing I want to discuss to wrap this video up is a mindset that I've seen some people share with me in the comment section of my videos, that they basically won't use any tactics that they feel are cheap or newbie. And I mainly saw this in my last video, the how to counter explosive spammers video, where multiple people told me, you know, oh man, thank you for this video, you know, I don't understand why people do this, it's so newbie, I would never be an explosive spammer, I would never shoot down buildings. And what I'm about to say may be a little controversial, but I really believe that's a bad losing mindset to have in Fortnite. Look, it's not your fault certain aspects of the game are overpowered. Are explosives overpowered right now? Absolutely. Should you not be able to shoot out and destroy buildings as quickly as you're currently able to because of things like explosives? Absolutely not. Epic needs to address it, and it's killing the skill gap in Fortnite. But you should be using these tactics as long as they're available. I do get why some people choose not to. They deem a tactic like throwing C4 at the bottom of a build fight as newbie or something only bad players do. But at the end of the day, all you're doing by not utilizing certain overpowered features in the game is putting yourself at a disadvantage. And like I brought up in a previous video, in Pro Scrimmage Playground 1v1s, it is a very common tactic to shoot out the bottom of bases if you're desperate in a fight. So if guys like Tfue and Myth are willing to use those quote-unquote newbie tactics, you should be willing to use them too, and honestly at the end of the day, you shouldn't feel bad about it at all. It's Epic's fault, not yours. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.